Bueno, gente, siento muchísimo la espera de verdad, pero es que ya sabéis, como os he dicho en el vídeo anterior, he tenido un mogollón de movidas por ahí. Pero bueno, ya está aquí el vídeo. Al final, como ya os he dicho, no lo he subtitulado porque iba a ser un mogollón de tiempo y quiero hacer muchos más vídeos de este estilo, entonces me van a llevar tantas horas que va a ser imposible. Así que nada, disfrutadlo. Si no tenéis muy claro las cosas porque no sabéis mucho inglés o lo que sea, los subtítulos de YouTube os lo detectan bastante bien, lo he estado comprobando y lo podéis traducir y todas esas cosas, así que no pasa nada. Para los que no sepan quién es Credenda, lo repito, como dije en el vídeo en el que subí la partida en la que me va a coachear aquí. Ahora mismo es el mejor Jayce del mundo, básicamente. Ahí vais a tener los KDAs y todo eso. Es Challenger de NA. Es un tío que es que solo hay que verle para darte cuenta de lo realmente bestia que es con Jayce, ese hombre. Seguidle en todas partes. Ahí os voy a dejar también su YouTube, su Twitch y todo eso. No tiene ningún desperdicio, aunque no sepáis inglés y no os guste ver gente que no habla en vuestro idioma. Sus putas plays hablan por él, ¿vale? Así que, por favor, todos a seguirle y nada, disfrutad de este increíble pedazo coaching y suscribíos para los próximos que van a venir.
Hey guys, Credenda back, and we are finally here with the video where we will be coaching Holdem Hammers. If you guys don't know who Holdem Hammers is, I'll be linking his YouTube and his Twitch below. Really nice guy, really good Jayce player. I implore you guys to check him out. He plays on EU West, and he is also a Jayce One Trick Pony who's been asking me for some coaching in the past, so we'll be giving it to him in this game. This video will kind of be just a stream of consciousness almost. There won't be a lot of editing. For these types of coaching videos, I generally like to just say my thoughts as they come to mind. So without further ado, we will begin this coaching video. So we start out with the level 1. And as we know, if you guys have ever watched my stream, or if you guys know anything about mid laner Jayce in general, is that in this meta, you generally want to put a ward down at around 115. You want to put this ward in either Pixel Brush, so this Pixel Brush, or the other Pixel Brush, depending on where the enemy jungler starts and depending on what your jungler kind of wants to do. Generally, I try to put the 115 ward in the Pixel Brush opposite of the opposing jungler's red buff, so I can't really get level 2 ganked. I'm safe from those, and we kind of know where the jungler is pathing, especially if it's a Camille or a Xin Zhao or anything like that that has really strong level 2 ganks. Alternatively, another really good ward, a bit riskier to place, is the ward over here in the Raptors at around 115, so you're generally going to be wanting to go for this ward on Jayce or any mid lane champion in general, and we'll see what Holdem does in a moment. I'm just going to kind of let the VOD play, skip through to certain parts that I wrote down that I thought were very important, but we won't be watching the entire VOD, just kind of generally looking at the gameplay. So he goes in, sees the Lee Sin level 1, goes for some early poke, and then a Fiesta starts bot lane. So he has two decisions here. One decision, he knows, or with the information he has, he knows Lee Sin sees him. So he knows the bot lane, if they're not blind, is going to see him coming down here. So generally, this isn't really a good move to go for because, let's face it, Graves is probably dead anyway, and if they want to just disengage, they can just walk to their tower freely, especially with Holdem being this far away. So the best play, in my opinion here, would be just to go back up, place your vision into the Raptors, and just start laning phase normally. So he does go down for this. He does see if he can pick up anything. Let's see if it works out for him. Graves dies to Ignite, and Pyke, instead of walking down to the tower, which he easily could have done, doesn't respect the Jayce, gets hit by the Q, doesn't flash in time, takes the Ignite and takes the auto. So we come to the position where, is this worth it? It's around 115, so we're not going to get our early ward down, which as it is already pretty bad for early vision, so we can't really play really aggressively early in the laning phase. 2, it's too late to base. So now that you have the 300 gold, it's not first blood. You can't use the gold necessarily, and you've wasted a summoner spell. Additionally, you're now at 200 HP. You've lost 400 HP, and you have to go back to lane without a health potion if you want to go back to lane right now. So overall, even though you did get a kill going down into this type of Fiesta situation, you're going to come to lane pretty behind. And this is just a bad situation, I feel like, to be in general, because A, like we said, you can't use the 300 gold, you're going to be chunked in lane, and you have no health potion against a mid laner who has 2 health potions and has the first push on you. So this is just a very bad decision, I think, to make, and you should always go for the safer play of kind of avoiding those level 1 Fiestas, just if anything to start off the lane a little bit more even, I guess. That was a very nice Q you landed on the Anivia, though. Looking for those Q angles. I wouldn't use Q here. This is the other first big mistake I think I made, or made note of, is that you shouldn't use your abilities for just a couple CS, unless it's a cannon, because cannons are obviously worth a lot of gold. But using your abilities on these types of minions generally isn't worth the mana for one minion. It also removes a lot of your lane pressure for the next 8 seconds, so she can harass you on her tower and not really feel any pressure from your Qs. So in this situation, I would just choose to give up maybe the CS and maybe look for a Q onto her instead of going for that CS. Switching to melee form here is also kind of a mistake, because she does have the ability to harass you. She does have the ability to land that Q on you. So I would generally, for this situation, especially since you don't have the mana from your melee form W yet, just stay in range form, try to last hit. I think you did need the hammer form passive, however, to get that last hit. Yeah, you did. But it might give up the other two if the enemy mid laner pressures you properly. You did get the AoE Q, that was very nice, but you ended up missing a minion anyway, so in that situation, I would generally just stay in range form. Very nice auto poke here, though. They're getting down. And here, you level E second in the lane. I would generally advise against this. I feel like leveling W second is typically better, gives you more powerful all in, because obviously your melee form W and your range form W give you more damage than just the gate. It uses less mana, and you generally aren't going to be looking for QEs in the first 3 levels, just because the damage that you get extra from adding the E on top of it generally doesn't justify the extra mana you're going to be using on that E. So for future reference, I would grab W here. Additionally, another thing I noticed, that if you did grab W here, while you're autoing these melees in your hammer form, you would be getting mana back. So you'd be getting around, it's 6 mana level 1 every auto, so you would have gotten 4 autos worth of mana, 5 autos, you would have gotten 30 mana back, which is actually pretty big in this lane. So I would just say, from now on, try to always get that W second and then get the E third. Unless a situation arises where you need to E that melee matchup back or anything like that, I would always get W second in the mid lane. And I can see where that habit kind of translated from top lane, because E is generally the best go-to for top lane in Jayce. Something I forgot to mention is that you did see Lee Sin go into the top side of his jungle, so you know he can only do a couple things from this perspective. And it's good that you're hugging your bot side. He can go scuttle into top gank, he can go into your jungler's top side, he can go into his top side, take his blue buff, so you can do a lot of things, so it is good that you're hugging the bot side of your map right here. You always want to be mindful for ganks as Jayce, because if you get ganked once, you lose a lot of your pressure, and it's really, really hard to come back. Right here is another situation where you have to make a decision. So we know Lee Sin is on the top side, and we also know Anivia just used her Q. This would be a position I would go for an all-in, I think, in melee form. You just hit level 3, you can level up your W, Q onto this back line and hit her, and since she has already used her Q, she can't really retaliate that much unless she just walls you as soon as you Q, which is really, really hard to do for Anivia. So in this kind of situation, especially after they use their abilities, things that come to mind in different matchups like Syndra E, Lissandra W, any of these things, as soon as they use those types of key crowd control abilities, you want to look for that early all-in with hammer form. So you could have gone for the hammer form chunk, you didn't go for it. It might have been a smart decision, because Lee Sin, again, could have just done scuttle and been sitting topside, although you probably could have just ran down to your jungler and it would have been fine. But always try to look for those types of early chunks as Jayce, because they're really, really valuable against squishy mid laners like Anivia. So right now you're just kind of shoving it back, pushing it in, but you should be looking to kind of push it in and use that gold that you weren't able to use earlier. Even though you are quite healthy, you should be looking to kind of poke her down, maybe not with QEs though. So right here, first levels 1 through 3, you shouldn't generally look for QEs. The E damage you get on top of your Q isn't really worth the mana, I would say, in most situations. So just generally try to refrain from using QE until you're passed around like level 4 or 5, where your Q generally will do a lot more damage. These are some really good autos in, and I'm going to speed it up to 2 times just so we can kind of go through this laning phase just a little bit faster, or maybe 1.5. Lee Sin does come around, you do respect the pressure, which is very nice. Graves is there for the counter gank, but nothing really happens. So now you're just kind of farming, getting your mana back with those melee autos. Again, I see you popped your biscuit here, and you should only really pop your biscuit when you're really, really low on mana or health, because it only restores 15% of your missing health and missing mana. So it's obviously more valuable for you if you run completely first, and then pop it. Popping it at about half doesn't really give you the same effectiveness. That's just something for future reference. I know you're not used to the biscuit page, so I'll give you a pass on this one. Lee Sin does go, or Graves does go for the invade on the Lee Sin. You get a very nice QE here, get the kill. And then as soon as this happens, you have to assess the situation. Their bot lane's roaming up, and your bot lane has no priority. They're just coming back to base. So you do not win this fight ever. It's a 3v2. You both used all your abilities to try to get that Lee Sin kill. I think Graves just used his flash. So right now, your one thought should be, I need to get the fuck out of here. So you start running up, you hit that vision, that's fine. You do dodge the Q, but right here, you should just continue walking up. You see the bot lane coming up, you know you don't win the 3v2, you know Graves eat out, so you should just be, at this point, be on a one-track mind of running the fuck out of their jungle. Instead, you try to go for some damage onto the Anivia, you stay a little too long, Pyke gets you with that Q, with that E, forced to burn flash, and I think they eventually do run you down with their flashes. You burn some summoners, but here is also a really bad time for you to die, and I think Graves also dies as a result of you not running immediately out. So I would just say in future games, for future reference, just be ready to analyze the situation for when it's lost, and don't be afraid of just completely running away. You don't always have to try to fight every kind of situation, and oftentimes it's better to just run away from those types of situations so you can get good base timings and you don't die for free like this. You could make the case that maybe bot lane should have rotated up, but just with the position on the map that they were in, there really wasn't a way for them to come help you. Another mistake I just saw here was you trying to QE for the backline. I think you missed all the CS anyway, but generally you shouldn't be using QE for CS unless it's for like a cannon wave or unless you can clear the entire backline, just for future reference, because A, the mana is pretty valuable for Jayce, especially early on, especially if you're against a mid lane that's going to poke you out of those melee autos, so you can't really regen mana as well, and it's just generally you want to have your E up just in case something does happen around the map, or just in case you can potentially get a QE onto your laner once they get into the lane. So that's just future reference. You do ping the summoner on Anivia, that's very nice. You should always ping summoners. Generally you want to time them too, but obviously that takes a little more effort, so I would say just generally always try to ping timers. You're looking for the all-in, and when she misses her Q, this is good. You should be generally trying to do this. And right now my idea would be, my thought process here if I'm at this point in the lane, is to just shove this in, try to look for QEs, which you did. You missed it unfortunately, but that's just fine. You're looking for the QEs. But it would be to shove this in and try to get vision around me. Because right now, I don't know where Rumble is, I don't know where Lee Sin is, and I really want to get that vision around my side so I can play a lot more aggressively. So you start to push in, Lee Sin comes down, kind of negates your pushing, doesn't allow you to really push in as fast. Do get the QE. You probably could have hit Anivia there if you walked down a little bit more, but that's just fine. You're shoving out the wave. And now you should go look to place vision. Right here, you should be looking to place vision. Instead of just sitting here and kind of just skipping back and forth between there, I know Lee Sin is down here. While Anivia is occupied with the wave, you should be walking down into this bush, and if Lee Sin is in there, just back up, E him away, all that good jazz, because Anivia can't really pressure you from all the way back here. Or if he's not there, you get the free pink ward down in the bot side, and that's really nice. So you do wait a little bit. You are a little scared of Lee, but you do eventually get that pink ward down, which is nice. So you do get the vision for that bot side. I would just say do it a little sooner. Very nice QE onto the Anivia. So in lane, you are looking for the right things. You're looking for that poke onto the enemy mid laner, and you're looking for just trying to chunk her out of the lane and try to roam. You do pan your camera bottom. I really like that, so you can see what's going on in the side lanes. I would also say during that type of downtime, you should also pan to the top side just to see what the wave's looking like, if it's shoving to them, if it's shoving to your guys' towers, just so you know which lanes are gankable and what kind of options you have after you shove out the lane. So right here, Anivia is kind of hard to shove completely under tower, but you are getting some very nice QE poke because she's not respecting it. One thing I see a lot of Jayce players don't do that you are doing is looking for those QEs onto the back line because the radius is so big. So that's a really good credit to you that you keep looking for those and chunking her out of lane. You're going down for this roam, but I don't know if it'll really be that fruitful. You can't push the lane, and you see that Lee Sin is there and Graves isn't there. So it is going to be a little bit dangerous going into this. So let's see if this works out. It's a 3v3. You do save the QE. I really like that you're saving the QEs. You're not immediately throwing it out there. You do get the kill here. You dodge the Pikey, very nice. And you force his flash, which is very nice as well. You guys end up winning the 2v3, so a good roam. You should always look for roams like this. And earlier I said maybe it won't be a good roam to go for because your jungler is on the top side. But since you pushed out Anivia in that mid lane with those QEs, it was a good roam to go for rather, and you end up getting some kills out of that. I'm going to slow it down for here because I think a part is coming up that's actually pretty important. So you actually have a really nice all-in onto this Anivia here. You wait for the Q. You wait for her to ult so you can E her and stop her channel. She also doesn't get her Q off, which is very, very nice. You get the ignite, and then right here you have to make a decision. With Anivia, it's all about making a decision on that egg. Can I kill it? Can I not kill it? You either have to go full balls to the walls and 100% commit for it. You see Lulu coming over to give you that damage, so you probably can get this, or you need to completely dip and run away. There's no in between, because any in between and Anivia is going to come up and just full rotation you. So let's see what you do. You get the auto down, auto. I think I would switch to hammer form before you get that last auto off, just so you can get the empowered auto out sooner. You're gonna get the same amount of autos though. You get the W down, and instead of walking away here, because you only kind of partially commit to the egg, you should W, auto, look for that last auto if you can get it, and then Q her while she has those reduced resistances. Because as you can see, Lulu does get her quite low. I think she gets her down to around 200 HP. So while she might have killed you right there, the slow from your Q and the auto and potentially the extra auto you would have gotten might have been enough to kill the Anivia before she got up, but instead you kind of forewent that option and died anyway. So I would just say in the future versus Anivia, you either commit or you don't, and then any in-between will probably get you killed. We're going to speed it up again. But that's probably the first death where it's just a little bit of indecision. You say it's your bad, you recognize the mistake, and it's not too bad. The game is still very winnable in this situation, but it just comes down to macro decisions essentially, or quick decisions. I would say. You do come down for this. They are going to try to contest your blue. I think you guys do have the advantage here because you'll get there quite quickly. Your bot lane and your jungler clean up some clean kills. You go back to mid. This is good. Farm it out. And from here, I guess you could do a couple things here. Right here, you could look to push. You could look to fast push the wave and look for a dive bottom, because their jungler is going to be dead for a little bit. Their blue buff's up, so the jungler is probably going to be top side. So you could look to go roam bottom right now. Or you could look to kind of keep the wave on your side of the map and wait for Anivia to come to you. I would say generally it's always a good idea to push and try to impact the other sides of the map. Freezing generally just doesn't give you as many advantages as it used to, just with how the game is right now. So you do go for that push, go for that bot lane gank. You almost get the QE here, but the Secret Service minions block it, which is super unfortunate. I think you guys do end up getting this. So even though you didn't get the full QE onto the Ezreal, a really good play here, a good roam. And even though you miss a wave mid, it's good that you applied that pressure into the bot side. Right here, I would say walk around river instead of walking around here. You don't know where Lee Sin is, you don't know where Anivia is, and it's very dangerous to walk down this path. You do check with your Q, but again, I would just say better to be safe than sorry. Take the safe route in the future. Anivia does walk a little closer to the wave. This is a risky engage that you're going for here. I think you eventually do get the kill, but again, Lee Sin was right there. If Lee Sin was maybe there a little bit faster, you could have died and lost out on the kill. Overall, you played it very well mechanically, but just in terms of decisions, I would be wary about the enemy jungler in future reference. Obviously, you got the kill here and it worked out. It's very nice, but just always be mindful for where the jungler is and could be. So now that you have this kill, it's very nice. You should shove this wave out if Lee Sin allows you to. Very nice QE, pokes him out, allows you to kind of just push this for free. Yeah, just Q onto the back wave, push it out. And right here is the second really big mistake I saw in this VOD. You go for tower damage here, where you should just be basing and looking to use your gold. You have 1200 gold, that's enough for Ghostblade and some boots. You should just back here and look to apply your pressure and your gold when you base. Instead, you go for the tower damage when Lee Sin is in the Fog of War. Their top laner is missing as well, and we don't know, our Anivia is dead right now, but we know that you cannot get the tower in one go right now. You can't take this tower from full HP. So usually in these types of situations, if I have a lot of gold, if I'm I'll just opt to base and use my gold that way. You begin to push the tower and let's see what happens. So Lee Sin comes up. I think we saw him around here. You're looking top wave. They do ping missing in the bot lane as well. And then Lee Sin comes up. And we can talk about mechanically what you could have done differently. Maybe you could have killed the Lee Sin in this. But just generally as a macro decision, you shouldn't be going for tower damage when the risk is so high and you don't know where so many people are. Because if we see what happens with this death, you do get to spend your gold eventually. But now mid-wave is shoved up to your tower. Anivia has the freedom to go down and fuck with your bot lane. So this really fucked up the tempo of the game. because since you died here with such a good lead, it allows the enemy laners and enemy players to kind of just sit on and pressure your other laners, which is really bad for the pace of the game. See, Anivia's pressuring this bot tower. Mundo can't really do anything because he doesn't know where Lee Sin is. They're going to go for this bot tower. And now that you're finally getting back to mid lane, they've pushed a lot of that tower. They've applied a lot of tower damage to your bot tower. And bot tower is really, really big in this meta, because if bot tower dies, it kind of opens up the rest of your map, and it opens up your bot lane to rotate to other areas in which they can take more towers and kind of snowball the game that way. So you could just see from that one death of being a little bit too greedy, going for that tower damage, can oftentimes change the pace of the game. You do come down here and get some kills, some cleanup kills, because they stay a little bit too long for the tower. I think you get the Anivia here as well, which is very nice cleanup. But now you also see that Ezreal is pushing the mid lane, and now he has a little bit of pressure on the tower. So it all just stems from that one death. You know, you do get the 2 kills, but their team got a lot of advantages in terms of objectives off of that death. So you should look to really not try to autopilot, and look to do differently in those kinds of situations and play a little bit safer. Up here, you do make a very good mechanical play, though, if I remember, onto the Ezreal and the Pyke. Yeah, so he walks up, doesn't respect your damage, get that auto W with Ignite, very clean. Use the E to dodge it. The only thing I guess I would maybe do differently here, I think you had 1 second on your ranged Q. You could have got a ranged Q off, but you had enough damage in the melee form with the Lulu as well to get the kill. Very nice, very clean. You don't know where Lee Sin or Anivia are, but I think you can take this tower pretty safely. I would just position maybe a little bit further back, just so that Anivia can't come up and wall you, and potentially if Lee Sin does come up from the bot side or the top side, just play a little more safe in these kinds of tower pushing situations. And right here, I think you should base. The tower is good, but if you die here just for the auto on the tower, you can always take the tower another time, you know. And I think the general trend I'm getting from your gameplay is that you're mechanically good, but you make some decisions that are a little greedy or a little risky, that gets you into some trouble later on. And will definitely get you into some trouble against some players that know how to punish mistakes a little bit more. So you base, you get your Mobies, very nice. And at this point, mid lane tower is still up, so you're going to go back to mid lane. I think here you go a little bit greedy for this engage. Oh, another thing that I forgot is that when you base here and you have this much gold, if you sell refillable, you'll have enough for Last Whisper, because refillable sells for 60. So don't be afraid to sell your refillable to finish an item, because the item will definitely be way more important. Or sell your refillable to buy some pink wards, because pink wards are also very, very important. So just always look to sell those, and always look at your inventory and see if you can buy things by selling that refillable. You go down here, get some early QE poke. I wouldn't try to go all in on the Rumble, because he's just so tanky with that W, and he does so much damage with ult. You also don't know what his ult timer is. You end up going in, and Lee Sin is there, of course, and Rumble also probably would have solo killed you because he does so much damage with that Merlin. So just going for that engage is just a decision you probably shouldn't make in the future. You should probably just let the wave hit your tower, farm it out, farm for that LDR. And because you died again, because you made a decision like that, they take mid tower, Rumble can now rotate, and now you lost a lot of pressure on the map again. So just 2 deaths, and all it takes is a couple deaths to really change the pace of the game, as you guys can really see here. So we're going to speed it up a little bit. You also lose a ton of minions as well when you die. You lose just so much XP, so much potential gold you could be having. So just imagine if you didn't die all these times, how much more fed you would be in this game with the 7-4 or maybe like a 7-2 lead. You'd also be able to come back to the fights faster, able to pressure side lanes a little more effectively, all that jazz. So just, you know, any time to avoid dying, I would say is worth it. And try not to take as many greedy risks, I would say. In terms of like tower damage and stuff like that. Here you try to go for an engage on the Ezreal and the Pyke. I think they both get out. At this point, when you see the TP and you see the Pyke go to the bot side and you don't really know where the rest of the players are, I would suggest just to back up and not try to go for this kind of positioning. Pyke does come up. You also saw the stealth, so you probably should have just backed up here. And if he does go for the ult and the wall on you, you can... I think you flashed a little shallow. You could have flashed over the entire wall, which isn't really a big deal. You still live, but just to give you some extra distance. We'll just kind of see how this fight plays out and then rewind it if I see anything big that you could have done differently. You do go for them here, that's good. Maybe it does flash, but you do get the egg down. So yeah, I would say you played that pretty well, despite or considering the circumstances. Got those early kills, and now you should just look to pressure the mid lane. Pressure this with some auto W's on tower. You should be switching to hammer form and autoing and Wing. I noticed that you didn't use W on tower, but you should always look to auto, cancel the auto with a W, and then pressure the tower. Also, at this point in the game, there's two decisions to make. Your top lane just popped the Rift Herald in the top lane to try to get you guys that inhibitor. So you have two options here. You need to either push the mid tower and pressure this Ezreal so he stays with you, or you need to go top lane and help them with the inhibitor. So let's see what you do here. You go down here for some vision. You don't find the vision. You poke him. You don't really pressure the tower because you have no wave. And then you go for this Lee Sin, which is very interesting. I would love for you to pan your camera down to the top inhibitor just to see what's going on. But right now, you're kind of really not doing anything for your team right now. Ezreal's down there killing the people on your inhib. The inhib's at 1 HP. You do come down for this cleanup kill, I believe, and then end up dying because you walk into 3. So we're going to rewind this and just see what you should have done differently in this kind of situation from the get-go. So right here, you know your players are going for that top tower at least. They just spawned their Rift Herald, so you have a couple decisions from this point on. And it's the two decisions I just described. It's either pressuring this tower or going to help them. Instead of pressuring the tower and going to help them with auto Ws, you kind of give Ezreal a little credence in this lane. You let him kind of push up. Graves does come down and try to kill him, but as soon as he goes back and this wave hits, you either need to base, or you need to help them with the inhibitor, or you need to pressure this tower. 3 of those things. You need to do one of those 3 things. Because you do have a lot of gold, you can base, get a nice base option, and use all your gold really effectively and come back. But since your entire team is pressuring one side of the map, I would really suggest that you go top lane to help them instead of just doing whatever you're doing right here. Because doing whatever you're doing here, yes, it does chunk Ezreal to half HP. Yes, you are getting some vision, but you know that no one's going to come in and try to face check you here. And you know that if you come up to here for Lee Sin, you're probably not going to get him anyway. So you're just kind of wasting a lot of time where you could be helping your team and potentially getting that inhib. As we saw later in the VOD, that inhib is 1 hit away. So maybe if you were there, you would have been able to get the inhib with your team. If you were closer to Graves, maybe you could have gotten the Lee Sin kills. But since you're kind of all over the place, you don't really get much of anything except this Rumble kill. And at this point, once you've made all these decisions, as soon as you get the Rumble kill, you should just immediately dip out. You shouldn't try to go fight these 3 people because obviously you can't fight the 3 people. Instead, you kind of tunnel vision on the pike, see if you can get them, and then they end up killing you as 3 people. So this, again, is just a bad death. You should have just either been more decisive with those decisions, made one of those decisions, or just based. But you guys don't lose too much. Baron wasn't up. You guys didn't get the inhibitor, which is kind of unfortunate, but just something you don't want to look for, I guess. And you should definitely be more decisive with your decisions in this part of the game. So now you're going to be splitting bot, which is a good option until Baron is up, in which case Mundo should probably go bottom once Baron's up. You do get that ward, which is nice. Shove this out. I think you go for the 1v1 onto Rumble here. Barely missed the QE. If you hit the QE, it would have been probably a clean kill. You did burn his ultimate, though, which is very nice. And you're just continuing to split push in this bot lane. This is the other mistake I think I saw. And it's the mistake I think I just see mid laners and top laners in general make when they're trying to create a split or they're trying to pressure a side lane, is that you have to respect the fog of war and you have to respect the enemy players. So right now, you know where 2 of them are, and you don't know where the other 2 are. You know where Pyke is. So at this point, when you're this extended, you either need vision when you extend this far, or you need to be always mindful of where they can come at you from. So right here, you see Pyke walk down. You might have been a little preoccupied with this. But at this point, when you see no players on the map, you should immediately ping Graves to go back and not try to pressure this tower. Instead, you guys position really, really aggro and really dangerously. You late blue trinket. You should have blue trinketed the bush in here, and you should have blue trinketed a lot sooner, just so you saw them come down. But at this point, as soon as you see them, it's already over, and you're already both dead. So I would say, as a general tip, in the side lane, when you're pressuring like this, always respect the fog of war and respect their vision, or the lack of your vision. You tell Graves to let you solo bot, but again, you probably could have got out if you just spam pinged him back, walked back as soon as you see them kind of try to collapse on you, and make a play from there. Ooh, your Kai'Sa's 1v9 right now. Saucing it up. Trying to get that tower. Try to get that inhibitor. But again, since you guys died there, you're out of the map for the next 30 seconds. You can't get that CS. You can't get the experience. So it's just really, really poor overall for your overall snowball. And I think a lot of these deaths that I'm noticing aren't really mechanical mistakes. Your mechanics are fine. It's more just your decision making and what you choose to go for. You go for this pike pick here, but there's really no one to help you out. And at this point, I would say don't even keep chasing the pike. Because at this point in the game, the name of the game is Baron buff. And how do you get Baron buff? You get Baron buff by controlling the vision around Baron buff, looking for a pick around Baron buff, and keeping your waves pushed out into the enemy so they're preoccupied while you can do Baron buff. Right now, Rumble's pushing mid and Lee Sin's pushing top. Instead of chasing pike, I would implore you to either push mid to establish that mid lane priority so they have something to deal with, and so you guys have that vision in the mid lane so they can't set up a flank from the mid lane, or go top lane and help with Mundo on that Lee Sin. I wouldn't say go for pike here, because while you might get the pike kill, I don't think you end up getting him. It just removes so much of your mid lane priority and your presence. Because as you see, while you're looking for this pike right here, they're already pushing up mid. It draws your mid, support and jungler away from the jungle, so they can't really ward up. They can't establish that vision priority for you guys for the Baron buff, and it just puts you guys in a bit of an awkward spot. Also, this is very Fiesta. This is very troll. Going for the wolves when you don't know where all 5 of them are on the map, where you don't have your, again, that mid lane priority, that top lane priority, you don't know where anyone is, going for this wolf camp instead of going, for example, the mid wave is not only less gold, but it's very, very risky. As you'll see here, you get hit by the Ezreal Q, Pike does engage and kills you, and Baron buff is up as well. So dying right here gives the enemy team, if they choose to, if they're in position for it, free reign over all of your Baron vision you just set up. This is a very, very bad death. This death could have thrown the game if your team didn't play it as well as they did, because I think they do go for an engage on the mid lane, and I think they disengage. But because you died there, their enemy team can go for this kind of play. And it just goes to show the kind of butterfly effect a death can have in a game like this, especially on something like Jayce. So then they get another pick on the Graves because you died and they're allowed to push up mid. They're going to push up mid, and they might even get vision priority over your entire top side. So just generally, these kinds of greedy deaths where you're going for tower damage or going for jungle camps just aren't worth it. And you should generally look to respect the enemy laners, or the enemy team rather, and their kind of pressure and existence on the map, even if you can't see them all. Your bot lane and your top laner, though, are going fucking ape shit right now, going completely off, and they end up, or manage to like 3v5 and turn around some kills. So you guys are back in the game. But I'm saying, if or in any like game where the enemy team doesn't do that, or if your bot lane isn't as strong, you guys are probably just going to lose because they're going to grab all that topside vision that you just accrued and take the Baron buff. But at this point, you guys are in a fine spot. You guys are going to get this Baron buff. Pike does try to go in for a steal, and I think you guys are going to be able to chase him down. If not, it's fine. You guys got Baron. And for the next couple minutes, I'm just going to kind of watch and see what you could have done differently in terms of side wave management. Another thing here is going for this air drake is nice, but as we talked before earlier, it's all about pushing out your lanes. Because we got to remember that the objective of the game, while Dragon helps to end the game, the major objective of the game is the towers and the Nexus. And while you have Baron, you want to have all your lanes shoved out so that when you are pressuring that those 2 lanes, or maybe those all 3 lanes if you guys are doing a 1-3-1, with that Baron buff, you want them to be pressured to go to the other lanes. Because if you have, for example, this huge bot wave and you guys try to push mid and top, if you guys can't get anything mid and top, they're not going to be really pressured by anything in the bot lane, so you can't ever rotate to that bot tower and take it if you guys want to. And air drake doesn't really help you a lot here. It's also kind of risky because, again, like we were talking about, we don't know where all 5 of their players are, and they all are alive now on the map, so they could potentially come over and steal the dragon from you. It takes you a long time to take the dragon, and you're also not getting either of the waves mid and bottom, which is going to be really good for gold experience, all that jazz. So instead of going for the dragon here, I would say either push out mid lane or bot lane, just to get that early push going for your laners. You also take Gromp away from your jungler, which is just inefficient, because your jungler does get more experience from the Gromp camp with his jungle item, so it would be just better for you in this situation to take mid wave, maybe take Gromp if your jungler is really late, and then take air drake with your jungler as your waves are pushing out, instead of just soloing it and having to base. But it's fine, you guys are still in a very good spot, have the Baron buff, and it's good for you to go and push in this side lane with the Baron buff, because I think with a 1-3-1 your composition is stronger. You do go for the solo kill onto the Rumble. Eam away, walks into your Q. Very nice solo kill. And that garnered you guys a lot of pressure. You should be panning your camera bot lane, yeah, right now, just to see what's going on. You always want to know what's going on in the other lanes, especially when you're split pushing, just to kind of give you a feel for what you can do, what you can take. You should be looking, yeah, looking again. Okay, get up to this inhibitor. This is probably a good idea. You see where 2 of them are. You don't know where Pyke is, but you should be able to take this in time. You do get the inhibitor, get the speed. They do catch you, but that's worth it. Very worth it for the inhibitor there, even though you lost a Baron. And I think you guys still have 1 Baron, so you guys are fine here. But you guys did get something out of that inhibitor. That was a good decision to go for, I would say, with the situation. And you did get that kill under Rumble as well, which is very nice. We're just going to kind of skip through this game, or the last part of this game. Just see what other kind of decisions you make. You guys do have the top lane priority and you see the teleport. Let's just watch this fight out before making decisions. Okay, I'm going to watch this out in 2 times speed. I'm going to re-watch it in normal speed. Just to see what mechanically you could have done differently. You guys do get the egg. The Q onto that. Okay. Now we're going to watch it one more time in normal speed. So when Rumble comes in like this, it's fine to E here. But when you use your Q, you generally do not want to use your E for movement speed. You want to save this for that big EQ, because that's where a lot of your damage is going to come from on Jayce. So instead you use it for the E, you definitely could have gotten a Q off without using the E, and then waited for the Q to come up with the E. So always just generally with your range gates, look for a QE instead of just for movement speed. You do Q the Anivia here. Not really much you can do here. Pyke does get out. You understand that, you come back. Go for the Anivia. And you E him back right into that QE. Very nice. And yeah, generally I would say you use this, or you played the fight pretty well. I would say just save your E in both forms for utility and not really for damage. Or one for damage, not for utility rather. The range you should definitely use for damage. You should always use your gate with a Q, and never for just speed unless you really need it. And then for E, I think it would be the opposite, where you should never really use it for damage, and you should only use it for kind of utility. But you played the fight pretty well overall. Push up that mid lane while they're getting that bot inhibitor so you guys can pressure that mid lane. That's very nice. You know they have it, so you don't really need to be there as well. This might be a little bit risky, though, because 2 people are coming up. I think you guys can get at least the tower, though, because you do have that top inhibitor pressure. You should be switching the range form here and autoing it with W instead of hitting with melee form. You do get that Lee Sin kill, which is very spicy. Get that QE as well. But you guys should be looking to disengage this. You guys aren't going to win this fight 2v5. You guys are kind of playing with fire here. You do get the kill, though. And then here is where you both die. So yeah, generally in these kinds of situations, I could play it back, but you guys are generally just overstaying. When there's 5 people like that, when your bot lane's base, when your bot lane's as strong as they are, I would just generally just spam ping your teammates and just run away. Because you're not really going to get any extra objectives out of it, and you're kind of just dancing with death and kind of playing with fire. So in those kinds of situations, you know, just learn to back off, learn to ping back your teammates. Spam ping your teammates. You guys are still in a fine position, though. This game is pretty much a wrap after you guys got that Baron. Another Baron is coming up as well. So you guys are going to take that. Pyke does come in for some harass. Your teammates are going to help you out. TP comes down. And at this point, you should just wait for the bot lane pressure. Look for that fight. Very nice QE. I think right here you could have, instead of E-ing him here for damage, you should just auto him. You should just dodge the E that he has, that little ghost thing behind him. You should just dodge that, and then auto him instead of E-ing. E-ing obviously gives you less damage than just autoing him in that situation. You do get the Pyke. Another thing I've noticed is that while you're over here, you should be panning your camera to look at the other parts of the fight just to see what's happening. Because you're kind of pushing into this, not knowing what really happened. Your bot lane's dead, your top laner's dead. You don't know what health Lee Sin is at. You don't know what direction he's coming from. So I would just say move your camera around a little bit more just to see what's happening around the map, so you can assess the situation a little bit better. You do get the kill on Lee Sin, that's very nice. Again, you use E for movement speed here. I think you could have dodged this without using E. And I'll tell you why I think you should refrain from using E just for movement speed, specifically in this example in a moment. So right here, even if you get hit by the other Q, you won't really, it won't kill you or anything because you do have the Maw, I believe, or the Hex Drinker, yeah? Or, yeah, it's the full Maw. So you'll be fine here from the damage. So using E to dodge these two right here really kind of locks you out of potentially Qing Rumble and killing him, right? Because your E has such a long cooldown that you wouldn't be able to immediately turn and kill him through that shield right afterwards. So let's see if like you didn't use your E right here for movement speed. You kill the Lee, very nice with the auto Ws. If you didn't use your E there, you could have been right here and QE'd him from there and potentially killed him, or waited for the shield and killed him. As the fight continues, Ezreal tries to come and fight you. You get a very nice E, auto W. And instead, again, you use the E for movement speed again. And if you would have waited for the QE, you would have been able to kill this Rumble with QE probably. Or tried to. Instead, he hits you with that E and kills you, which is unfortunate. But this game is pretty much over at this point anyway. But I would just say for future reference, try to use your E for damage and not for just movement speed and utility. Unless you really need to use it for movement speed and utility. Because oftentimes you miss out on so many situations where a nice QE can really clean up a fight. Or get a crucial pick. And we'll just fast forward through this game a little bit faster. You guys end up getting the Baron. You play this well. This is another thing I wrote down. Right here, you should get a bind for target champions only. Because from this camera perspective, if Lee Sin jumps in and you need to E or Q him, you're going to be clicking on the Baron. Whereas if you have a key to toggle to target champions only, you can just press that key and wherever you're clicking on top of Lee Sin, you can get him. I think you end up queuing the Baron and not hitting the Lee Sin because you don't have target champions only. And if the Baron was any lower, he might have been able to steal it or something like that if you weren't able to get that damage off on him. So just for future reference, target champions only is extremely useful in those types of situations, tower dives, etc. And just all that jazz. Ooh, what happened here? I think you Q and then you flash as soon as you Q, which cancels the animation. I think it would just be fine to walk up and Q here. You do dodge the Q, that's very nice. But yeah, just to walk up and Q here instead of flashing. Maybe flash behind for the E or something like that. I think you guys are going to win this fight anyway. Instead of going for the Pyke, you should look to peel for your AD carry. Because if the AD carry dies, the Rumble just rolls through your entire team. She ends up living anyway, but you should really look to refrain from toggling, or not toggling, tunneling rather, on certain individuals where it would be better to peel in that situation. You guys do finish up the game and get those kills though and win the game. So overall, general thoughts to kind of ended up. Your mechanics are good. And I would say you need to work on your macro decision making. There were a lot of times where you would go for tower damage or greedy jungle invades or things like that, where you would end up giving up a kill and giving your opponent kind of room to come back in the game and room to pressure the game and pressure your other lanes. My advice in the future would just be to you know, look at your deaths, look at the decisions you're making, look at where you're kind of giving up these free kills and giving up this pressure, and look to avoid those situations in the future. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, all that good jazz. And I'm really excited to keep working with Holdem and helping you improve as a player. Thank you, guys.